Welcome to Space to Grow, brought to you by Kachune Lube Kitchens Ireland.
Well, in this podcast, we explore the spaces that we inhabit and the ones that shape us as individuals. I'm Lisa Cannon.
And I'm Natasha Rocca Devine. In this episode of the entertainment series, we are thrilled to have award-winning fashion stylist and TV host Brendan Courtney joining us in the Devlin to share his experiences with the spaces he's inhabited throughout his life and his career.
Without further ado, it is Brendan himself.
Thank you so much. Thrilled to be here. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's a delight.
Pure luxury. This is a good space. I'm very happy in this space. Thank you
You were
for having
saying
me.
we're like the French flag.
You're like
know?
the French flag. You really are. Chiller girls. I like that. You're working ice cream, cigarettes.
Exactly.
It's so nice in
exactly.
here, yeah.
A cinema room all for you. Now, of course, speaking of entertainment, we've been seeing you and hearing you, more importantly, on the radio over the last couple of months. It's been a whirlwind. Are you enjoying it?
Yeah, so I started covering Radio 1 about a year ago, like March 22. So people sort of did notice a little bit, but didn't really. And then, of course, there was a couple of bumps in the road, and I was brought in quickly to cover more. So myself and Oliver Callan cover 1, but then I started covering for Ray at 3 o'clock on Radio 1. And they've
Touch wood.
touch wood, yeah, it's going well, and I like the cover, and that's all it is. And no matter what the outcome is, I have a 2-year contract to cover on 1. So I love going in for 2 or 3 weeks, enjoying the buzz of it, and then going off and going back to my life.
When you came in, you just came in for a quick cup of tea beforehand, and somebody stopped you and they're like, "Oh, I love hearing you on the radio." I mean, you know, we do love your voice and obviously everything you do, and you're so full of energy. And people cherish that, someone who they can relate to on the radio. Do you enjoy when people come up to you and say, "I love hearing you"?
I'm always very
the
grateful
wireless.
because I think it takes, like, if I once stopped Morgan Freeman on Stephen's Green. He was with a load of family, I think, and I went, "Oh my God, Driving Miss Daisy is one of my favourite films. Can I have an autograph?" And he said no. And at the time, autographs was controversial, right? And I remember thinking, it took real guts to ask him for that. So anytime somebody stops you to give you a compliment,
Yeah, it's a compliment.
You just have to be. It takes nerve to do that,
Yeah,
you know.
especially if they're polite, which they
Yeah,
are, yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
some people like to tell you they don't like it so much. But that's okay. Rarely, but sometimes. Rarely. Yeah. Some people say, "I like you, but I prefer her or him or whatever." But that's okay. That's
Yeah.
part and parcel of it.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
So you were on TV for Off the Rails, and then you moved into fashion design. So was that really daunting for you? It was a huge transition.
So I was what you're doing on your side of the mic, and I was interviewing designers as part of the clothes show when you did Expose. You remember What's Your Inspiration? And I found myself with space in the evenings. I was myself, Louise Redknapp, and Karen Franklin presented the clothes show. And I found myself sort of, I want to know the truth about making garments. And my mother was a seamstress, and I understood clothes manufacture but not design. So I went back and studied design for 3 years at night in Central St. Martin's, which is now London College of Fashion. Wow. So I actually studied it. So when we did Off the Rails and we talked about not being able to find certain garments we wanted in sizes or fabrics or shapes, we kind of was, we should just go and make them. And I remember walking through one particular high street, which is a very successful one, which is now gone. You can figure it out.
Yeah.
And looking at the cheaply made clothes that were really selling really, really well, and thinking, God, we can fill a gap here. We can make better quality clothes. So that was kind of natural progression for me. Also, I wanted to develop a product that wasn't my face or my voice, because that you can only be one place at one time as a presenter. Absolutely. And I wanted something that didn't need me all the time, so I could still earn money and earn a living, you know, because it's such a precarious industry we work in. You're on and you're off, you're in and you're out, you know.
Yeah,
and I've never been contracted to any broadcaster, so I repeat, I've never been contracted to any broadcaster.
This podcast is great. I think it's getting people new kitchens, getting people contracts. Yeah,
I mean in that I've always been freelance, so I've never
course.
been paid a day's holiday pay in my life. So when I'm on holiday with Adam, I'm like, "See that cocktail? That's costing me 3 times what it's costing you. The opportunity cost, I'm actually paying for it, and the fact that I'm not working." So
well, that makes me shoot right in with the fact that you have to hustle.
Yeah.
Right. So if you're a freelancer, we talked a little bit with Deirdre O'Kane about this. It's like, you know, you're always playing it forward about your next gig. So obviously we know you've so many strands to your bow, presenting and fashion designing. But what are you thinking about next? Because you're thinking, "Oh my God, I got to pay my rent. I got to," you know, you're doing a renovation. We'll talk about that later on. You need to find the money to do it. So how do you pay it forward then?
So I did have a full-time job in Tyrone Productions in 1996-7 I toured at Riverdance as a production assistant, not with my eye on the television. The house across the garden was where Tyrone was, but we were in Elm Productions doing Riverdance, and I really wanted to get into television, and I was like 20, 21 or whatever, and I worked in there for 2 years, and I got a job as a researcher on Open House, and it was just 6 months contract. And the managing director of Tyrone Productions, Joan Egan, who's no longer with us, who was my great mentor, I said, I'm giving up holiday pay and I'm giving up, a pensionable job. And she was like, just jump in, you'll be fine. You'll freak out for the first few months, but then, and it's true, fortunately or unfortunately, I don't have children, so I don't have a massive mortgage. So you're always grand. You're always,
You'll feed yourself.
It always works out, right?
Yeah.
So, and once you get used to that, the ducking and diving and up and down, it actually becomes less pressure, I think, as you get a little bit older, a little wiser. So I've stopped being afraid of the hustle now. I've stopped being afraid of it.
But they always say that when you put it out, like the law of attraction, if you put out stress and anxiety and pressure and panic, you don't attract it back. No. So the more you're like that, actually, weirdly enough, the more work you get. So, and obviously on top of talent and all of the rest.
that is true. If you're chilled about something,
people want to be around you,
it kind of comes towards you a little more. But no, there is a hustle underneath as well. I suppose I kind of like... I like to work less and less now. I worked all the time when I was in my 30s and 40s. I said no. I never said no. I said yes. Always afraid.
That's true. No, whether you're doing interior design or you're
doing say yes. Now I say no. Now I take a month off, or I'll take a weekend off and won't feel guilty. And actually, a big maturing skill is actually not being afraid to say no, because other stuff does come. But when you're freelance and you're used to the hustle, you're terrified it's not going to come. And as you said, if you chill and relax, it'll come. It'll come.
I'm not that chilled. I
think it's actually a stage of life as well, though. When you're in the start or mid part of your career, you're hustling, you're selling, you're proving, you're selling, you're proving. So it's tricky, it's tough.
Can we go back to your childhood? Talk about. We like to go back to people's childhoods in this podcast.
I had a white Holy Communion suit. Just saying.
Oh wow!
I was like a young Joe Dolan. I was a young Joe Dolan.
Oh my God! Because everybody has a passion about entertainment. When they're when they're small, people look at kind of the stars on the screen, whether it's fashion icon or an actor. I did for sure. I had my own favourite presenters. So how did it all start for you? Where did the kind of draw for TV and radio presenting and fashion come in?
So the scientific or the medical answer to that is my parents were unemotionally available to me as a child, so I went out into the world looking for approval from others, and that's why you become an actor or a presenter, right? So that's the therapized version of it. But I was in W Theatre from the age of 13. My English teacher was like, okay, you're a little show off, go into Gardiner Street. And I take the bus on my own from Tala and go into Gardiner Street. And it was 90p on a Saturday. And it was in a building on Gardiner Street. And amazing people, like Colin Farrell was in W Theatre. Lots of actors you would know came through the doors of W Theatre. Philly McMahon, the director, came through W Theatre. And I was a little bit ahead of them, and I was in W Theatre from that for 6 years till 19 years. You had to leave at 19 because it was W Theatre. We did performances and plays, and we did everything from stagehand to stage direction to music direction to acting all the way across. It was an amazing thing to be part of, and it was for not disadvantaged children, but it definitely wasn't a privilege. You had to audition to get in, and I auditioned, I got in. So that entertainment side of things came definitely from there. And then I auditioned for the second year of Trinity of theatre studies in Trinity College.
I did that.
Did you go for it? Did you do it?
Yeah, I did it. Yeah,
I didn't. I didn't. I threw it. I didn't do it. I got terrified of it. Yeah, I was only 16 when I did my leaving cert. Yeah. Okay. I was very young, so, but W Theatre sort of cemented that in me. And also my mum used to do amateur theatre when we were kids. I remember I used to go to every single show and sit up the front, in the local community centre. So I loved the idea of all of it. I don't know what, the lights, the attention, whatever camera, it was. Yeah.
Action,
yeah.
So was designing and stage and colour always, was that influenced by that? Seeing people on stage?
Definitely. So my mother was a hairdresser and then became a psychotherapist, same thing, just no scissors. And as she says, right? Exactly. But she was a seamstress. So there was always a sewing machine on the go. And she taught me to sew when I was about 11. And
so multi-talented.
So it was practical. So they're very working class family. So if you wanted a new top on a Saturday night, you made it. That's kind of how it worked. There was always patterns. But she made my sister's wedding dresses, and she made the bridesmaid dresses. My grandmother made my eldest sister's wedding dress. So that was a big part of our growing up. Fabric everywhere, things like the fabric getting lost in the boot of a car, all this kind of the drama that went when the making of the dress, and the crying and the late nights of making the dress, and then the dress would be amazing. So I suppose the process around creating a garment was very much there from when I was a baby. Yeah, so that was really instilled in me. And then I designed my first dress when I was about 11. I designed a flat knitted flapper dress that my aunt knit and my mum wore to my sister's wedding. And I have the dress actually. I'll send you a picture of it. Yeah. I'm
That's
gonna
so
frame it. It's a gorgeous dress. It's
Oh,
like
do,
a
send
halter
it on to
neck, flat silk knit wool. So it kind of looks a bit woven, and it's quite deep here, and it's backless, and then it goes down to about here, and it's got like foot long fringing all the way around. And it's cream. It's off white.
I want one.
My mother wore it to my sister's wedding. Just saying.
Well, Natasha's going to talk about space, because obviously we're here to talk about your space to grow. But actually, it's such a fluid word, isn't it? Because obviously we can talk about spaces to grow and what have challenged you. But I suppose growing up, what was your bedroom like? I mean, if you were that creative when it came to garments and making things for your family, did you have posters on your wall? Was it painted black, green, red?
I only remembered this when we were chatting earlier on. So when I was 12, I took up the carpet in my bedroom floor. I had the box room, a tiny thing, right? I took up the carpet and I painted everything in the room black and white. I painted the floorboards black, I painted the skirting board black, walls white, and I bought black and white striped things. I bought black and white striped duvet cover,
stylish.
and just everything black and white. And the effect of the floorboards, my mum liked it so much, she took up all the carpets in the bedrooms and stained all the floorboards long before people did that, because we had lovely floorboards. It was a new enough house. So, and I used to act like my little bedroom was my little apartment, and I had a little travel kettle, and I had a fake sink that my dad gave me that wasn't plumbed, and I had and really hilarious.
See a photo of this.
Oh God, no! But my mom went to one shopping trip ever. She wouldn't be into it, but she went on the boat to Argos. Remember people did that?
Yeah.
Took the ferry, and she took out the Argos catalogue and said, pick something, and I said, that's stereo. So it was a stereo in a big black cabinet, and she's a tiny little woman, and she lugged this stereo back, and it arrived, and it was flat. And it was a stereo cabinet she bought me. No stereo. So we put the cabinet together. So I had a little objet in it, like a little cabinet in the corner of the bedroom. I mean, it was the gayest thing you've ever seen.
Sounds amazing.
It was amazing, but it was pretty gay.
Pretty gay but stylish, though.
Yeah.
But, and my friends, I always remember the look of confusion on my friends' faces going, what's going on with your bedroom? I just got really into it. Did it all myself, yeah. And how nice cool of my parents to let me do it.
So you're very stylish and you're very fashionable. Do you see an overlap with fashion and style?
I mean, they were always considered two and one of the same thing, but they're not. People say they like fashion. They like shopping. It's a different thing. Fashion is a kind of another theatrical, ethereal world that is very interesting. It involves trend. And people who go in shopping, it's not the same thing, right? Where style is just a state of mind, I think. And ultimate style, I think, for me, is being completely comfortable in your own skin. And how you dress means that you're really comfortable in your own skin. So I've evolved very much so. I remember being about 27, 28 years of age, doing clothes show, I think I was, and just saying to me, I can't wait to not care. I can't wait to not care, because I was obsessed. I would iron everything. Like my first presenter gig, right, we'd have to say 6 changes because we'd 6 occasions. But I'd have different socks, different shoes, different trousers, different, because I didn't understand. So I'd have a full outfit for everything, right? So I had to learn my own style and get comfortable in my own skin. And now like people say to me, what's your number one tip? And I was like, if you don't know what to wear navy.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yeah.
That's a really good one.
Yeah, I love navy.
It'll always, it's a bit deeper than black on screen as well. It's a bit more warm on Irish skin, and it's easy to wear.
I love it. There's a style tip right there. I feel embarrassed because I've got my sliders on, and you think when you're doing a podcast with Brendan Courtney,
I'm wearing runners.
Oh, that's okay then. And here I am in my sliders. And you're feeling embarrassed because you're thinking, oh my God, I should have,
No.
But at the end of the day, I don't care either.
Yeah.
I love that I don't care style. But, you dropped a hint there about the UK, and I'd love to touch on that because you did build a huge career in the United Kingdom, not only with Louise Redknapp that you mentioned with the clothes show, but it's difficult, isn't it, as an Irish presenter to kind of break that mold into the UK. How did you find that at the time?
So I was lucky in that I was kind of airlifted over. I just had so there was a amazing woman called Christine, who came to Ireland to produce Who Wants to Be a Millionaire, and it was in Tyrone Productions. I was doing my show Wanderlust, my late night dating show, which I owned, and we sold that to about 19 countries. So I had a great start to my television career, and I was camp and bold and cheeky. That was my persona, kind of somewhere between James Patrice and James Kavanagh. I mean, I was that funny, bold, cheeky, very innuendo ladled. They were actually a bit cleaner than I was, much bluer than them actually.
You were blue.
Which I regret.
Television.
I'm not proud of. Blue. But that's what gay humour was at the time, in a way. And not that I was trying to. I was very out at home. I mean, like, being out on screen was not a stretch for me at all, because I was like in my mid-20s then, and I was out anyway. So this woman, Christine, took a shine to me and introduced me to this incredible agent in the UK. And like within 2 months, I was presenting Ant and Dec Saturday Night Takeaway.
Wow.
And then I did Blind Date with Cilla Black, did all the ITV2 shows, and they were flying me over every weekend. And then I relocated. So I had this weird start because I met this really incredible woman, Christine, who was friends with this agent who signed me. And then I did the faithful mistake of getting too big for my boots, and I left that agent and went to a crappy agent and blah, blah, blah.
And of course, Brendan, you mentioned some great names there. Ant and Dec, we'd love to find out more, but of course, Cilla Black. Need I say any more?
So Cilla was funny because I presented the ITV2 show. So straight after Blind Date on a Saturday night, they go to our studio, and myself and this presenter called Sarah Kaywood. And Sarah had the same colour hair as Cilla, and Sarah had done the Girly Show with Denise Van Outen and was doing quite well.
Yeah.
And Sarah was very hot, like a really Kylie Minogue, hot little pocket rocket, and great presenter. And Cilla never remembered Sarah, but would always say, "Hello, Brendan," and say, "And you?" And she'd go, "It's Sarah." She just never remembered her, which is always quite funny for me. And we did that. We did 2 seasons of that, and we were in the elevator with her, coming down to the floor. They get the presenters for makeup. When she claimed that her husband appeared to her in that elevator and told her to resign that night, we were in the elevator with her. I didn't see him, but just saying.
I was going to say.
Cilla Black.
Yeah.
I met her actually. I worked on the BBC for a couple of months, and I had an agent in London actually years ago, and I worked there for a couple of months on the Alan Titchmarsh show backstage.
Oh, yeah, he's
And
nice.
he's lovely,
Yeah.
and just randomly, I had an agent. She's like, "Oh, you'll meet loads of people," and she came in one night. She was a hoot. Should I say? She was amazing.
She always drank a full bottle of champagne before she went live.
Why not?
What?
Yep.
Is that well known?
That was well known. I don't know. I've never seen her drink it, so it's just hearsay for me. But people would say, yeah, she has a bottle of champagne before she goes down.
I'd be on my ear.
Yeah, imagine.
Though
Maybe she
we
had a glass.
Maybe I had a few glasses before I did this.
Oh, who knows? We'll never know.
We'll never know.
Thank you for the generosity of the Devlin.
But Irish presenter, in the UK, and of course there's more now. We've Angela Scanlon over there, of course, doing also a home programme. But I don't think we're as represented in the UK as we would like to be. But do you think that can change? Would you like to see more Irish in that market?
I still do work with BBC Radio London, which is great and it's fun. My heart's in Ireland now, very firmly, and COVID kind of cleared that up for me. I had a small home in London. I sold it last November. I got rid of it. I had it since 2004 or 5. And it just felt like going back in time a little bit to me, going back to London all the time. And also because it's so divided politically as well on many issues. It was a little uncomfortable to be there for a while. I was at dinner a few times with friends and families and their families, and I'd mention Brexit and they'd all go stony quiet. And my mate would go, the family's divided on so they had a couple of divisive issues. And I used to say to people, we're the lords of divisive issues. We've come through we've come through 4, but 2 in recent history, terribly divisive referendums, and we survived.
Yeah.
So we actually know how to tolerate, listen, and it's interesting where Ireland's going now. But currently, Ireland is the best place in the world to live. And I really love it. I mean, it's expensive, but, I love our climate. I do, even though it's rainy. I love it. It's easier to work in. And I love the people. I think Ireland is a really magical place to live in. And having lived in London, and London towards the end of my full-time life there, which was 2010, I think, it just got really lonely. It got really isolating. I found it really lonely.
Yeah,
and there's no spontaneity.
Yeah.
You had to schedule
everything.
everything.
It was very scheduled, exactly. And that's what I miss that.
So
and people were lovely, but it took effort.
Yeah,
It was much more planned,
I'm 52, and I know I'm
Do
great.
not
whatever.
look at you, look fabulous.
I don't mind. Age is a wonderful gift, isn't it?
Isn't it?
But also,
Isn't it?
London is a young person city. It's a fast city, and it's an intolerant city of people who want to walk slowly. So I want to be by the sea. I want to be up a mountain. I have different priorities now. When I first moved to London, I'd come home. I used to say that I've come home. This is where I belong. But I was 30. I was 31. It was exactly where I should be.
To be.
And now that's not where I want to be anymore. And it's acknowledging that and knowing where you want to be.
and different spaces in
Different
time in your
spaces,
life.
yeah.
And now you're in Ireland. So how do you it's wonderful here, but it is a small pool. So how do you keep creating? What's your way forward?
You just have to. That's the only thing. But the brilliant thing is when I started out, I had to hire a crew, and I was 2021, and I had to hire a crew and an editor to do my first show reel, and it cost me £500. So it cleared out my savings, right? So it meant that if you were willing to go that extra mile, you weren't from a wealthy family, you put yourself ahead of the game by creating funny things. Like I made my CV into a newspaper cover saying RTE finds new star, and that's how I put my CV into RTE. Yeah, and so I did really inventive things. Now with the
everyone doing that.
With the democracy,
your own slot. You just put the axe on your own career there.
Damn it! But for and also the other thing about it, I'm very much about supporting others coming up behind you. And there's a lot of people pull the ladder up. Not at all. All ships rise, because with content, the democratization of the internet has meant that there's an insatiable desire for content. There's loads of opportunities for you and I to connect with the audience that doesn't involve traditional television, that doesn't involve traditional media, doesn't involve radio. It's fabulous time to want to be a presenter now or a content creator, I think, because you can just start yourself now. And that would have been a completely different ballgame for me, you know. And I think it is changing massively. Also, people holding on to the reins. I mean, we said this great, you know, like with print, television, radio. The gatekeepers are still there, but the walls are down. You know, so the world is changing massively, and it's an exciting place to be now, I think.
In terms of space, because obviously the name of the programme and podcast is Space to Grow. So, you know, I've been lucky enough to be in your apartment, and we talked on your own podcast, and it's about that sense of, you know, what does your personal space mean to you? Now, you've just told us, and we'll touch on it now, that you are buying and purchasing another property, and you're going to be renovating that as well. So you've got two spaces at the moment. So where does home more feel like, and how are you going to make that happen?
Well, interestingly, and this is only coming to me now, I like small spaces. I like intimate spaces. I love a boat or a caravan. I love the feeling of like tiny things, and I always did as a kid.
Like
and I think my bedroom, like a clean, tiny space. So I loved caravans as a kid. I loved the dinky little way that they would do clever design to
are really clever.
Really clever.
Really
That
clever,
I loved that. So I realized, like, if I won the lotto tomorrow, I wouldn't buy a big house. I'd only have 2 bedrooms, maximum 3.
They're hard to manage.
More bedrooms, more guests.
Yeah, I was going to say.
More places to hoover.
Yeah, I was just going to say more to clean gardens
and actually,
to manage.
I love the compactness of a space. And my apartment's 1,000 square feet, so it's not a small apartment, but it's not a huge apartment. It's just a nice size, I think, because
it's a beautiful apartment.
You can go either end of the apartment. You can go into the spare room, or you can go into the living. It's an open plan living area, but there is a little space that you could separate the two of you. Any more than 2, it'd be crowded. You know,
and you have a beautiful view of the city, of course.
Yeah,
as well.
no, I mean, I love it. But I was thinking, when I was looking at the house beside, so I'm probably going to sell the apartment in the long term, but this house came up and it was very cheap. It's a 1980s bungalow, but it's on a hill with a huge view of the bay in Wicklow. So it's a sea view, but it's in bits. Like, it's really bad. It's so small. The supporting walls support the roof, so you can take out all the internal walls can come out.
Are you going to do that?
Yeah. I'm going to completely reimagine it, and I'm going to take my time doing it. I mean, you know, budgets are going to be tight. Building is really expensive now, so it's a long term. It's a long term project.
But you're doing it the right way. You're planning,
and that's why I haven't sold the apartment. And I'm going to rent a bit the other room, maybe, just to manage the budget somehow, because, as I said, I'm freelance. But we'll be fine. Yeah.
I think you have a free interior designer.
Oh, I'm
and all the brands.
What do you think I'm here, Lisa?
and all the brands listening. There's a renovation happening.
Yeah.
And we can link up Hough. There's a lot of overlap.
Well, Hough
I think Deirdre Kane's getting a new kitchen.
Hough knows about it, and I was telling him about it. He's like, yeah, you're great. And Lisa O'Brien is my QS. Do you know Lisa O'Brien from Room to Improve? I think she's from. And then Kieran is my architect. So I've actually had to bring an architect in, even though my brother-in-law did their house, and he works in software, but he did it himself, because they just extended the back of the kitchen and stuff like that. So I'm going to do a full gutted renovation.
You don't feel worried? I mean, you're talking about concrete up your nose, late nights, sweeping up rubbish.
I took 2 weeks away. I took 2 weeks away, and my partner, who's originally from Poland, kept saying to me, "Are you having a middle-life crisis?" I was like, "It's just mid, but okay, we'll go middle-life crisis." Because I was like, "Oh God, am I mad taking on debt at this age, you know, and a mortgage?" When I've been paying the other mortgage off for 20 years, so it's come down considerably, and now I'm going back into that where I'm at, where I'm not going to be clear for a long time. And then I sat with it for 2, and every time I think about doing it, I get excited. I don't get afraid.
That's a gut feeling. You have to go.
Yeah, it's my gut feeling. It's the right thing to do. Yeah. And I'd be a bit of people wouldn't think it of me, but I would be a little bit frugal and a little bit unless everything's okay and safe, I won't dive into something. You know, people would think I'd be a bit of a maverick. I'm a bit cautious. I would be, particularly with money, because, you know, we never know where it's coming from.
never know
And
where
if I'm
it's
going to
coming
borrow... but yeah, I've got a good friend who's also a really good financial advisor, and he was like, just do it. Just for your grand. If it all goes tits up, sell the whole thing. I was like, all right.
I like that.
Move home to
great
Manchester.
financial advice.
You're going to get free advice.
Oh, yeah,
Yeah,
brilliant,
that's
yeah.
for sure.
I'm so excited, yeah.
And then obviously you are like, you know, you're obviously brilliant at fashion as well. So what's the most difficult thing about fashion design for you? Obviously, and I know that's going to work really well for
No,
your interiors.
it's interiors are, so we left our previous partnership last year, and we took time out and sat with what we do. And really, interiors was really important to me, particularly me. You're reinventing the wheel of fashion every season. And we had one season where we did 14 collections in 1 year. And it was too much, right? And because also the woman who's a fan of what we do, she wants something different to what she bought, but not too different. So you're trying to reimagine a tiny wheel that only moves a little part every time. No, it's fine. You mostly get it right, but often get it wrong. But mostly we've kept that customer there. So the fashion is gorgeous. But now what we're going to do is it's just going to be 2 seasons a year. It's going to be autumn, winter like normal, and spring, summer.
Really good idea.
Really good quality. But with the homeware, where I've seen my
How's your
age.
homeware?
Oh, it's just so exciting.
Oh my God,
Colour
you
and things,
homeware.
just things that you can keep forever and
Is
add
this
to.
an exclusive? Are we getting an exclusive?
It probably is a little, yeah. It probably is a little bit of an excuse. Yeah, but homeware, yeah, we're doing homeware.
So excited.
And it'll start small. It'll be, you know,
That's
as you
better,
can,
though.
cushion throws, candles, you know, and we're working with mango wood to make bowls and stuff like that, which is recycled. And yeah, so
So
it's
sustainability, obviously.
it's hugely important to us as well.
And
really,
Natasha's very much about that, aren't
yeah.
you?
And we're all on a journey. Nobody's perfect, but as long as you have that now in your
You're doing your best with
in your
it.
manufacturing
Yeah.
head, you ask the right questions now. We wouldn't even ask questions 10
No.
years ago. Now you ask and go, where's that made? What's the provenance of it? That garment or that fabric or that vessel? Is it damaging the world, or is it enhancing the world? And hopefully what we'll do will enhance the world.
I'm so excited for your interiors.
I'm excited about it too. I mean, you're also, yourself and Sonia, you know, in the collaborations, you're always very good with diversity and inclusion as
Yeah.
well. You always make sure that's a point. And Natasha always said to me, when we get Brendan on, I want this to be in the questions.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
brilliant.
it's- yeah, 'cause
So we
it's-
both did a master's in equality, diversity and inclusion 2 years ago. So I stumbled across this master's degree through a friend of mine who works in Trinity, and I was styling her for something actually, and she said, how can I pay you? I said, she said, come and do a PhD. And I was like, no. She said,
I love
what
that
would you like?
gift.
I said, well, I go, because I was Ireland's first openly gay TV presenter, corporates Google gay presenter and I come up, and so they booked me to do these talks. So I talked about marriage equality, I talked about my experience in school, I talked about being gay in Ireland and seeing the change and all that stuff. But I never had rigor in my talks. I never had actual leave them with a little 3 things you can do to be better allies for that. So I was telling her this over coffee, and she was like, study it. So we did a master's 2.5 years ago. And so now, I mean, I'm just back. I was in the UK for the day last week. Lidl Europe flew me over, and I did their masters, their management conference, and did a keynote about equality, diversity, inclusion. And as Irish people, it's not even about being gay; it's about being Irish. What we've come through from all of the rights that we've experienced, that we have been the change, seen the change, and lived the change. We are such a beacon of hope, especially for women oppressed in other parts of the world, to show that actually dogma, doctrine, religious oppression can be relieved within 20 years. It can change. Like we change so fast,
really fast,
Like most of us will remember a different time in our country when that judgment was accepted, when we worried about what the neighbours thought, when we really did worry about what the priest thought. Every family was concerned with that. That's changed. I mean, for good or bad, but it has changed. So I love doing those talks. They're very exciting, and I'm very proud to be Irish. And so what better place or base to do it from than this space, which is Ireland.
This space, look how he got
Space.
I love it. You're brilliant. You're back for series 3. Definitely. Definitely.
I'm out of a gig. Look what you've done.
But I'll be
I'm
live
out of a
from
gig.
space.
No, listen, it's absolutely wonderful. I think we're nearly out of time, sadly, unless you've one more question.
I do. And what have been your standout moments in your career?
Oh, good one.
Or just one, even. If there's probably too many.
There's so many.
Presenting an IFTA with a black eye just before the marriage equality referendum, and not realising how much of an impact that would have on the referendum. Mortified. I got attacked on George's Street. This guy shouted faggot, punched me in the eye. Next day, I mean, I was fine. He ran off. I was with friends. It was like I wasn't like down a dark alleyway or set up on. But I had to go to the IFTAs, and you were at as well.
I was,
And I had a big black eye, and you couldn't really see it on the way in because it was dark on the way in. It was kind of moody. Then when we got on stage, it was like really obvious. And the next day I was on the cover of every single newspaper, and it was the lowest but also the highest point of my life, in that it was terrifying to see that. And also, of course, papers reported in a very dramatic way. So people were ringing me from Australia and America and going, "Are you okay? We've heard." And I was like, "Look, I just got punched in the gob. It happens every Saturday night to lots of people. I mean, I'm not thrilled about it."
That's very sad, though.
But the outpouring of our allies, of people like my friends, like you, who said, "I didn't know that still happens," and I was like, "Yeah, it does still happen." And I believe it really moved the dial in how people think culturally about Ireland. So it was a high point and a low point.
It is disgraceful, but thank you for bringing it to our attention. We have a quick fire entertainment round. They're kind of one-word answers, but anyone that's been doing them has been an absolute ridiculousness, haven't they? They've kept going and everything, in between. But
okay, I'll try and give you one word, right?
Try, do the one word. Off you go, Natasha, let's go.
What is the one lesson that you wish you'd known earlier in your career?
Don't care what anybody thinks.
That's what Jennifer Aniston said in Vanity Fair.
That's the biggest lesson in life, because people don't care. They only care about their own kids, and just about. People are more concerned about what they're going to eat next than your career.
So true.
Think about it.
What is your travel space that you love the most, or where have you travelled to that you love the most?
I go to Greece every year on island hop. I've done 58 islands now. I did 5 islands in July. So Greece is my absolute happy place.
Didn't know that.
Yeah.
I love Greece.
And my key is the bag I have with me today is the bag I bring. I bring 1 pair of shorts, 1 pair of flip-flops, and 1 t-shirt. That's it.
Amazing.
I'm stinking by the end.
I was going to say, you need to pack for me.
Island hop with Brendan.
That's
Walk behind them. Yeah.
So what's one thing about you that people don't know that they'd be surprised to know?
I'm quite
Train
bitchy.
robber on
I'm
the
quite
side.
bitchy.
You're bitchy.
Yeah, I am. I like
Oh, no.
in a good way. Like,
In a good way.
I like a good gossip.
Okay.
Who doesn't? I mean,
Who doesn't?
You're
Yeah.
Irish.
That's
Yeah,
true.
yeah, yeah.
Okay, so Brendan is bitchy. And
Nobody's surprised at that.
what is the most challenging space that you've ever been in?
School, my first secondary school. I went to Gael School, and I was so fey and so obviously gay. My mother sent me to school with the blonde page boy. I mean, they were like, "Are you a boy or a girl?" And it was tough. I was really badly bullied. But I left that school myself. I walked out of that school and never went back. Okay. So I had the confidence to do it, and then off I went to a great school after that. But that space is still...
It's somewhere.
It's somewhere, yeah. Well, it makes me very defensive if I see any sort of bullying or any sort of, manipulation by one person over another. I'm like straight in there. I get very emotional about that.
Okay,
Yeah.
very good answer. Right.
What's a bad habit that you'd like to break?
Bad habit. This is weird, and you will love this as an interior person.
I'm excited.
I change my base sheet on my bed every day.
What?
Yeah, I change the sheet every day.
God, you must have the washing machine on every day.
Well, no, because I just wait till they pile up and then I wash
then you
them.
wash them.
Now, I try not to, because it's not good for the environment. I know, I get it. But it's a sleep pattern that I get into, and I've been having to get up early. So my perfect sleep routine is clean sheets and a shower.
I love clean sheets.
Who doesn't love clean sheets?
I get it.
So, and Adam lets the dog sleep in the bed. So,
Yeah. And the dog was meant to come today. Which
Sorry,
we'll
yeah.
put
I
it
missed the
about.
dog.
That's okay. Next question. So who was your favourite fashion designer or TV personality growing up?
Oh, growing up. Wow. Okay. So Yves Saint Laurent, definitely. And my mother introduced us to him when we were kids. Imagine, she was really into it. Switzer's was the shop she used to go to. And we started to see these glamorous designs. And Mum would go in and try them on. Like, even though she never bought them. But yeah, but she bought a Chanel suit when I was about 12. And it was called the Channel suit.
I love it.
Absolutely.
Because it was
Amazing.
like £450 in 1982 or something, But it was royal blue, little fit jacket and a little A-line skirt. I remember it really well. So yeah, probably Chanel.
So lovely. If you weren't pursuing your career now, what would you be doing?
I would have been a doctor. I'm very at home in hospitals. I always think I would have been a doctor. Yeah.
That's merely more surprising to me than the answer about what would people be surprised about.
Yeah, I would have been. My mum really wanted me to be a doctor. Yeah, but
Can imagine you coming in.
I would. Yeah, I would have been a
Dr.
doctor.
Courtney.
Yeah, I would
Dr.
have-
Courtney.
Yeah, I even played with the idea of going back and doing medicine about 15 years ago. But then I am a bit squeamish. I'm a bit squeamish though, so I thought there's too much layers of nonsense going on in my head about this. But yeah, when I'm in the hospital, either visiting or for myself for a checkup, I always go, I'm very comfortable here. I always feel, most people hate hospitals.
I think he's very comfortable in the red velvet seats of the Dublin here. My question, I suppose, is a future space that you'd like to live in or be in.
What I have started to build for myself, a view of the sea, and it's literally a 10-minute walk to the sea, which I absolutely love. And I think, that horrible lockdown time was introduced Ireland. Irish people went, oh, that's actually the sea. We should use that. We actually we stopped being ashamed of being Irish. We were being in the 80s in Ireland. You left, everybody left. 90s, everybody left. We were kind of embarrassed about being Irish. It was a bit of a backwater. Now I think this is like, I would say it's like New Zealand without the attitude. It's like a very nice, easy place to live now, and we get it, and that's what, really by the sea is what I love.
Lovely, beautiful answer.
What's a trend that you think never goes out of style?
Navy.
I was gonna say
Navy. A trend that never goes out of style. God, everything changes. The one thing you think is going to stay evolves. All the young lads are in super tight jeans. I mean, they laughed at me for wearing tight jeans a few years ago, and now I wear really loose wide pants. You are today. It's all relaxed, loose, and comfortable. I think the one thing that never goes out of style is looking comfortable. I think if you're uncomfortable, you look uncomfortable, and that just gets on everyone's nerves, including yourself mostly. So being comfortable, I think, is one thing that never goes out of style.
Oh, lovely. Well, our final question of today. Sad to see you go. What has been your biggest accomplishment?
Staying connected with the same group of friends, I think, and riding waves with friends that have, there's ups and downs in relationships. So I think, valuing good people, I think, and making sure you nourish those friendships, I think, is my biggest accomplishment.
Brendan.
Darling.
Don't you just love him? Brendan, thank you so much.
Thank you.
So excited for your interiors collection and design. The next step.
I'll send you a load of it.
Yes, and you have your own free interior design.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much.
So I can't do anything to help. I'll just come and have a glass of wine.
Perfect.
Brendan, thank you so much for taking the time to be with us.
It was wonderful. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We loved having you on.
Thank you.
For more on Brendan and his upcoming shows and projects, check out brendancourtney.com.
This episode was sponsored by Cucina Lube Kitchens Ireland. Check out their latest collections at cucinalube.ie.
And if you want to keep up with the latest from Space to Grow, make sure you hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts. And if you can, leave us a rating or review.
Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you next time on Space to Grow.